Choi Hyuk stood firmly on the ground in the middle of the park. He effectively knocked out his opponent to the ground, with his fist still clenched. Regardless of age, size, or number of opponents, he inherently knew how to fight and could win against them all. Worried about Hyuk getting hurt while fighting older people, Hyuk's mother asked about the scars on his face. One day, Hyuk was dragged away by 5 teenagers who were trying to steal his money. Despite Hyuk's warning to let him go, the teenagers refused, and an evil grin spread across their faces, revealing malicious intent. One of them rushed towards Hyuk to make him fight with him. Hyuk stopped holding back. Hyuk's mother heard about it and rushed to see him, but she was shocked. His mother broke down after hearing news about his opponents, as one went blind and the other died on the spot from a concussion. Hyuk was taken to the police station for murder, but wasn't subjected to criminal prosecution since he's a minor. The broken mother pleaded with her son, not letting him go away. The mother cried and asked Hyuk not to hit anyone again, ever. Realizing he's a weapon, his mother asked him to bear embarrassment, as it was a punishment for killing a person. Years passed, Hyuk grew up, and he entered his classroom. He confronts Bae Han-sung, Kon Min-ho, and Lee Min-ki. Min-ki charges in and punches Hyuk in the gut, asking him to speak up. While Min-ki locked Hyuk's head and was asking about his breakfast, Hyuk tried to laugh it off and replied that he couldn't have breakfast. Lee pointed his finger towards Min-ji, who was eating, and asked Hyuk if he knew what he should do now. Being embarrassed, Jong Min-ji, president and first-place holder in the whole school, swiftly turned her head away. Kan Min-ho took control of Hyuk and threatened him, asking if Hyuk had completed his math homework. Hyuk reached for his bag and said to Min-ho that he had written the solution process correctly this time. Min-ho took over the note and smacked Hyuk as a token of appreciation, suggesting he would have stayed the year if he had written the wrong solution process again. Han-sung was hungry and threatened Hyuk to give him his wallet. Nervously, Hyuk took his wallet out of his bag and went along with them. During class time, Hyuk was nodding his head over and over. Min-ji realized he wouldn't be intimidated if he just stopped shaking his head, making him look nervous. She was really annoyed by this gesture. But Hyuk was just analyzing how he's getting rusty about his fighting form, and how difficult it is for him to pretend that he doesn't know how to fight. An image of himself was created in his mind, and he wondered if he could win a fight with Min-ki effectively and instinctively. But he became aware of what he was thinking. Hyuk started to nod again, as if he was trying to get rid of those killer thoughts and atone for his sins. He was clear that he would not fight again, and started to wonder why everyone looked so weak. Suddenly, something caught Hyuk's attention behind him. A blue orb spawned out of the air and violently started to spin across the class, pushing back everyone and everything. The orb quickly became a bubble, and everyone was perplexed about the situation. Quickly, all the students checked their phones to communicate, but the screen turned off for everyone. Min-ki tried opening the door, but it didn't move an inch. Someone yelled, "Min-ki, move away from the door." Min-ho charged towards the door and kicked it hard. He injured his leg as Hyuk is visibly confused as to why Min-ho is kicking a sliding door. The class teacher tried to calm everyone down and instructed the students to sit on the floor. Amidst the chaos, some students noticed that something's written over the front of the ring. Confused about its sudden appearance, everyone started to focus on what was written. The rules for the Ring of Rebirth were disclosed. Han-sung was excited about it and was also thinking about whether it's real, while others are worried about deleting people. The teacher was still trying to control the room by instructing the students not to move from their seats until they got a clear picture. The panic started to grow as people started to worry about how long they had to stay in the room and what if the rules were true. Hyuk was comparatively calm and was ready to accept the situation that they would starve and die. Suddenly, Hyuk's focus diverted as the teacher yelled for Min-ki to get down from the ring. While the teacher was insisting on him to get down, Min-ki refused as he felt trapped and bored, while Han-seong was smirking from behind. Suddenly, Min-ki was able to realize multiple stat abilities. With a confident smirk on his face, he ducked. Min-ki launched himself into the air, realizing his physical abilities have improved while his classmates are shocked to see him. His classmates calculated that his jump was nearly over a meter or so and were shocked by his superhuman jump. Realizing the power of karma, Min-ki thought that the rules for the Ring of Rebirth might be real. Min-ki, with an evil grin on his face, points his finger and calls Gil Su Yang to the ring. Gil Su froze for a moment and others were shocked. Suddenly, something pushed Gil Su from behind. Everyone, and Gil Su himself, was confused about who pushed him. An unknown force started to pull Gil Su towards the ring. Suddenly, Min-ji rushed towards the ring with concern. She held Gil Su from behind and asked everyone to come help him. Everyone, including Hyuk, rushed in. They all held a part of Gil Su's body to prevent him from being dragged. But despite their efforts, the force was too heavy for them, and it pulled Gil Su out of everyone's grip. Suddenly, a bubble appeared and prevented other classmates from entering near the ring. Since most of them were trying to hold Gil Su back, the barrier held them outside. Being envious about the fact that Minji hugged Gil Su, Minki was standing menacingly in front of Gil Su. Minki started to question Minji's friendship because of his envy, while Hyuk and Minji are both confused about what's happening. Minki was surprised and slightly startled by the fact that the rules are actually real. Gil Su started to panic and shiver out of fear. Even though Minki had an advantage, fear was instilled in him. He understood the reality of this situation, but the beast that was lurking inside him fueled his malice and hunger for strength. Minki quickly caught Gil Su with a sleeper hold from back. Gil Su started to suffocate and slowly lose his grip while Minki strangled harder. The teacher yelled at him while his classmates were just witnessing a gruesome act. Gil Su almost passed out and lost his grip on Minki's arm. The other classmates were horrified by Minki's heartless beating. Gil Su fell on his knees and slowly started to lose consciousness. Suddenly, despite losing consciousness, Gil Su gripped Minki's forearm. Slowly, Gil Su planted his feet to the ground and stood up, even though he was held by a sleeper hold. He firmly squeezed Minki's forearm and slowly tried to remove the submission move. Gil Su violently ripped Minki's shirt off while escaping the sleeper hold, leaving his forearm scarred with his grip. As Gil Su escaped the sleeper hold, he moved forward while Minki fell back due to Gil Su's strength. Gil Su thought about his actions, how he escaped his situation with a piece of Minki's shirt in his hand. While Minki was shocked to see Gil Su's strength as it almost broke his arms, Gil Su clenched his fist with determination, realizing he could win this fight. Enraged by Minki's actions, Gil Su charged towards him to punch him. The punch lands right on Minki's face. With such a heavy force, Gil Su was able to push Minki away. He slowly released his fists as he positioned Minki to the center of the ring. Gil Su took a glance over his hand, understanding his strength. With sheer confidence, he clenched his fists again harder. He charged towards Hinki again to throw a punch, while Hyuk was standing beside the ring, analyzing the fight. Hyuk knew it was pointless for Gil Su to charge towards Minki. Hyuk analyzed the situation and understood that Gil Su should adopt a defensive approach to dominate Minki in this fight. Hyuk saw that Gil Su was stronger, but Minki was faster than Gil Su, and Minki landed a devastating right hook. Gil Su was still on his feet and charged towards him again. But because of Min Lee's longer arms and greater reach, Gil Su was at a disadvantage, and Minki landed another jab. Minki saw a quick opening and went for a left hook, but since his reach was short, he easily evaded it. Minki quickly countered the left hook with a right. While the fight was still going on, Hyuk thought of the reality of the situation before, where he was a weak boy, and there was Minki, who pretended to be strong. He understood that if this fight were telecast on TV, people would ignore it and laugh it off as a kid's fight. But the reality was the cruelty itself. Minki landed a hard jab to Gil Su's face. The glass panels over the window started to vibrate due to the force exerted by the jab. But it did not change their fighting skills. It was the ring that powered Gil Su to endure and strike heavy like a bull, and Minki to be quick and agile like a deer. Within an instant, Minki rushed in with a heavy punch point-blank at Gil Su's face. The hook landed right on the face of Gil Su. But to think of it, karma powered him up, else he would have ended up in the hospital with broken bones. Gil Su tanked the hook. Sparked by rage, Gil Su quickly locked in. He jumped towards Minki to swing a strong uppercut, but Minki narrowly dodged it. The classmates were just sad and shocked to see the phenomenal athletic abilities of these two individuals. Minki was surprised to see Gil Su's endurance and stamina levels. Motivated by this, Gil Su was determined to land one more hit. He went to his fighting stance, with his fists as strong as a rock, and was ready to charge towards Minki. Gil Su slowly started to lose his stamina, while his nose and mouth started to bleed heavily. He charged towards Minki regardless of his stamina exhaustion, while Minki was aware of his jab. Minki slipped out and countered Gil Su with another jab. With immense power, the jab was planted right on Gil Su's face. Minki was trying to follow up the jab while Gil Su almost lost his balance. He quickly closed the distance and covered up with an uppercut near Gil Su's face. This devastating blow knocked Gil Su's teeth out and made him lose consciousness. The broken teeth fell all over the ground around the ring. Consumed by evil intentions, Minki quickly took control over Gil Su and held his head, and was ready to throw powerful punches. Minki pounded Gil Su's face, and this caused the classmates to panic and get scared of the scene. He started to pound harder and harder on his face. Exhausted by this, Gil Su tried to plead with Minki, but Minki did not stop punching him. Blood started to splatter all over the class while his classmates tried not to look at this scary and gruesome act. And for the finisher, he unleashed a lot of powerful strikes to his face. After this continuous beating up, Minki stopped and looked at Gil Su. Gil Su's head was almost squished, and blood was splattered everywhere. His classmates were just shocked to see the horrors Minki did to Gil Su, while Gil Su's hand slowly started to fade away into ashes. Minki, confused about what's happening to Gil Su, his whole body started to fade away into dust. While he was thinking, some dust particles entered his nose. Gil Su completely faded away into dust particles. While the other classmates were panicking, Hayek was shocked to see Gil Su fading away into dust. He saw some spilled blood and witnessed the last breath of a person. This reminded him of his past incident when he was in the 6th grade. Hyuk realized how easily he killed that high school student. But it was his mother who really mourned the death of the student. It was his first and last time he committed a murder, but this time it was committed by others. However, Minki's attitude was different from his attitude when he committed it. Minki suddenly felt an overflowing energy surging through his body. Minki realized he had become far stronger than before. Understanding that he got this power surge after killing Gil Su, Minki was consumed by greed for power and was determined to kill everyone to become stronger. Minki turned around creepily and was looking for the next opponent. He set his eyes towards a weaker classmate. He chose Yoon Ki-rim as his next opponent. Scared by Minki's ruthlessness, Ki-rim started to panic out of fear, thinking the same would happen to her. But not only Ki-rim, but also most of the classmates got scared after witnessing Minki's fight. They all realized the Ring of Rebirth actually made Lee Min-ki be reborn as a demon without mercy. Just like Gil Su, Ki-rim was dragged to the ring by an unknown force while the other classmates were just confused. Not wanting to die, Ki-rim screamed for help while she was dragged by her leg by this unknown force. Minji quickly grabbed her hand, tried to prevent her from entering the ring. The other classmates were just standing still as they thought she would still suffer the same fate as Gil Su, even if they helped. Minji helped Ki-rim to get up while Ki-rim was still traumatized. Without hesitation, Minji yelled that she would like to fight Min-ki, and this shocked Ki-rim, but Minji just took advantage of Rule 2 of the Ring of Rebirth. Ki-rim broke down into tears. As Minji entered the ring, Ki-rim cried hard, thinking even she would suffer the same fate as Gil Su. Min-ki was surprised to see Minji in the ring, and the other classmates were just speechless about her actions, and Minji started to stretch her arms. Min-ki smiled, asking Minji if she was really going to fight him. Minji stayed silent, implying a yes with that silence. He quickly locked in and accepted her request. While Minji was warming up, Min-ki offered another chance. Minji was confident and smirked. She finished her stretches and came face to face with Min-ki. With a soft smile, she cussed at Min-ki and was ready to fight him. Min-ki chuckles it off, thinking Minji was crazy. With his fists open and a creepy grin on his face, he rushed in towards Minji. He quickly grabbed Minji by her shoulders and pushed her to the ground. Just like how he took control of Gil Su, Min-ki took control of Minji within a few seconds. Min-ki came closer towards her with malicious intent. Consumed by lust, he tried to take Minji's clothes off first before even attacking her. Feeling powerless, Minji felt awkward in her body and felt uncomfortable. Min-ki was distracted by this, almost enjoying the moment while he was trying to rip her dress off. When he tried to open the shirt by force, a button flew across due to the immense force he exerted. The spinning button hit Min-ki's face, catching his attention over the situation. The button stopped rotating after it hit Min-ki's face. And in that moment, he knew something was off. Min-ki realized he was stabbed by a tool to his head by Minji. Before he could even react, while he was distracted due to his lust rather than his hunger for power, Minji quickly took advantage of this situation and stabbed Min-ki. The Min-ki started to lose his consciousness before the button even fell to the ground. Minji pulled the sharp tool out of his head, splattering Min-ki's blood. She pushed Min-ki to the ground while he went unconscious, as he was bleeding heavily. Before even the battle could begin, Min-ki lost to his lust and fell to the ground before the button could fall. The button fell to the ground after Min-ki, but covered with his own blood. With a deep sigh, Minji was trying to calm herself while she firmly gripped the tool. Just like Gil Su, Min-ki's body started to crumble into pieces, starting from the injury he suffered. Slowly, the pieces broke down into dust particles, and just like the previous battle, the dust particles went near Minji, who won the fight by eliminating Min-ki. But Min-ji resisted and didn't accept the power surge after defeating Min-ki. With a messed-up dress, she held onto the needle she found in a toolbox. She knew the basic biology of humans, that if someone gets stabbed in the head, they will die. She was calm and perfectly waited for a moment, while Min-ki's completely distracted. Her classmates are shocked to see the tactic used by Min-ji to ensure her victory over Min-ki. Min-ji stood up and stepped out of the ring. In order to express her gratitude for saving her, Ki-rim thanked Min-ji for stepping in for her. But Min-ji was simply disappointed. Min-ji ignored her gratitude and brought Ki-rim to the reality they are facing right now, that she would die eventually if she wasn't strong enough. Ki-rim froze in fear after hearing Min-ji's words. Min-ji opened the door with ease, which was impossible for others to open. Before exiting the class, Min-ji explained to Ki-rim that she didn't intervene to save her and told Ki-rim to kill while she could, else she would suffer a meaningless death. But the door allowed only Min-ji to exit, and it closed as soon as she left, and didn't allow anyone else to exit. While the classmates are distracted by Min-ji, Min-ho enters the ring, talking about how loud these people are. He set his eyes towards Hyuk. He challenged Hyuk to get into the ring to fight him. With a blank expression, he tried to realize the situation he's in right now. Hyuk knew he was far more different than Lee Min-ki, as he showed no mercy for Gil Su. Hyuk also knew that even Min-ji killed Min-ki without hesitation for survival. But Hyuk also realized he wasn't the only killer anymore. They all were killers. Hyuk smirked as if he felt like he didn't want to hold back anymore. It is similar to that of a beast that was born among the chicks. Every time the beast tried to touch a chick, it died easily. But the beast's mother said that the problem was not the chicks being weak, but it was the beast itself. Ever since, the beast lived low like a dog among the chicks, and ignored the chicks even when they pecked it. Min-ho was one of those guys who assumed he would kill the beast because it seemed weak, but the beast snapped. Hyuk stepped onto the ring. As he was climbing up the ring, he saw Min-ho and realized the last fight he had was an illusion. But Hyuk had no other choice but to confirm it himself. Hyuk started to tremble as he stood in front of Min-ho, realizing that the weaker of the two would die. Min-ho, on the other hand, was assuring Hyuk not to be afraid with a sinister smile on his face. He even told Hyuk that he was lucky that both of them belonged to the same weight class out of the whole class. Even Hyuk tried to laugh it off. But Hyuk let his beast out, consumed by wrath. Min-ho pitied Hyuk. He had to beat him to death. Comparatively, Hyuk is taller, but Min-ho was confident that he's a wimp. But considering Gil Su, Min-ho became aware that Hyuk might become strong at any point in time once he receives his karma. Min-ho realized he received his karma as soon as he stepped on the ring, just like video game systems. But he also realized Hyuk hasn't received his karma yet. In order to take advantage of the situation, Min-ho quickly closed the distance between Min and Hyuk. Min-ho leaped with all of his strength for a takedown on Hyuk. Min-ho successfully grabbed Hyuk from his takedown attempt. As soon as he realized he caught Hyuk, he creepily smiled, thinking he had gotten his advantage over Hyuk. But in an instant, Min-ho was confused about what was happening as he saw tube lights in the ceiling, with blood in the air. Min-ho realized there was a lot of blood around him, and this must be a joke as he saw his classmates upside down. But his classmates were just horrified and scared after witnessing what had happened. Min-ho quickly lost his consciousness, and blood started to splatter all over his lower jaw and neck. It was Hyuk's devastating right knee to counter Min-ho's takedown, which ended up snapping his head due to his immense strength. While Min-ho's head fell down and his body started to leak a lot of blood, Hyuk was calm, but enraged by the beast itself. The beast that Hyuk had held back could no longer be stopped or controlled. Just like Min-ki and Gil Su, Min-ho's head started to fade away. Meanwhile, his body also started to disintegrate into dust particles. And within a few seconds, Min-ho's entire body disappeared, and the shirt started to fade away as well. With a stale expression, Hyuk realized he had won the battle against Min-ho. His classmates were just awestruck due to his immense physical strength. Hyuk felt the blood of Min-ho on his pants near the knee, which he used to counter. Feeling empty, Hyuk just stared at it for a while. Hyuk was shocked as a message popped up in front of him. The ring gave Hyuk 10 points as a bonus, as he defeated his opponent before even karma was distributed to him, and it increased his karmic points. The message also showed his karma points distribution of Hyuk. Hyuk realized that he absorbed a part of Kang Min-ho's stats and understood that Min-ho had a lot of stamina due to his extra point over stamina. Suddenly, Hyuk felt something surging through his hand, entering his body. It was karma, and it was an unfamiliar feeling, but it also enhanced his muscles and tendons, which allowed him to move explosively. Hyuk clenched his fist and felt the power of karma coursing through it. Curious about this power surge, Hyuk wanted to try karma in order to understand it even further. But his mother's words crossed his mind once again. He quickly tried to erase the thought of killing anyone by nodding over, and he was done with killing. Hyuk quickly thought of a way to escape. Since he had defeated an opponent, he thought of walking away just like Minji. But his instinct suggested he fight more, and his focus shifted to someone else. His focus averted to Bae Hangsong. He always bullied other people. He found them a threat, as he might kill the weaker ones to survive. Hyuk was frustrated by that thought. Hansong started to pray and started to beg for mercy. Seeking forgiveness, he fell onto his knees and accepted that it was his fault for being a bully. Within that instant, Hyuk noticed something odd. He saw Hanseong's eye turn red while he was pleading, and within an instant, it reverted back into his normal eyes while he continued to apologize. Confused about what had happened moments ago, Hyuk noticed that there was something strange in his eyes. Hansong confessed that he regrets everything that he's ever done. But Hyuk wasn't buying his story, as he was suspicious of whether he would kill the weak ones, and Hansong was pleading that he wouldn't kill anyone and stay quiet. After hearing his plea for mercy, Hyuk was confused about whether he had to do something about Hansong. In the meantime, Hansong quickly drew a weapon out of his pocket. It was a cutter. Suddenly, Hyuk noticed a strange red flash over Hansong. Hansong, completely blinded by rage, charged towards Hyuk to kill him. He swung the cutter across Hyuk's face, but Hyuk nearly dodged the slice. Even though Hyuk almost dodged it, it still cut his face shallowly. Instantly, Hyuk countered it with a powerful strike to Hansong's jaw. The punch almost made Hansong go mid-air and lose his consciousness. The cutter fell onto the ground and broke. Hansong fell onto his knees again after being countered by Hyuk. But this time, even though he's on his knees, he totally went unconscious, and his face started to bleed due to Hyuk's precise and powerful counter. Hyuk tried to analyze why Hansong's eyes turned red, as if something possessed him when he was trying to kill him. The punch landed so hard on Hansong's face that he started to foam at the mouth due to its impact. But Hyuk realized he was just unconscious, not dead. Confused about the situation, Hyuk wondered if he had to kill Hanseong with his bare hands. But his attention was averted. He looked at his classmates and realized his classmates were still watching his gruesome act. He realized it was too late, and he's already a monster and a killer. Hyuk quickly opened his fists and approached Hansong's unconscious body. He started to choke Hansong by his neck, trying to strangle him. As Hyuk continued to strangle Hansong tried to resist. But eventually, Hansong gives up. Just like his friends, he also started to disintegrate into dust particles right when Hyuk was strangling him. Hyuk stood up and tried to dust his shirt off as it became dusty due to Hansong's disintegration. He even rubbed his hands off to remove all the dirt. Now that Hansong's eliminated, he thought it was over. As he stood before the karma point message in front of him after killing Hansong, Hyuk realized that this wasn't the end, and he wouldn't be happy fighting if it continued. But in that moment, Hyuk realized something. He turned around and took a glance at his classmates and his class. Hyuk was curious about the range of this supernatural phenomenon, whether it covered the whole school. But he was suspicious whether it would extend over the entire Gangdong or even the entire Seoul. Hyuk's curiosity quickly turned into a concern about his mom and whether she's all right or not. The hallway and the classroom were dimly lit. The windows were covered with blood as it became a fierce battle between men and women. Some of them, who were excited to see blood, used weapons like hammers to kill with incredible, while some didn't want to fight and had to fight for the course of their survival. This was a very similar rule to that of a ship anchor that sinks into the sea, to drag every person to the bottom by any brutal means. After a massacre, only some were alive from the whole class. Yoon Ki-rim, previously chosen by Lee Min-ki, was still scared after witnessing all the chaos that happened. Min Byung-sae was shy yet had many friends. And the teacher, who set his eyes on Byung-sae. Left with no option, the teacher chose Byung-sae for a duel in order to exit the room. Fear instilled by Byung-sae as he knew it was impossible for him to defeat his teacher. The teacher fought Byung-sae, and he quickly strangled Byung-sae, making him lose consciousness at a very quick rate. The teacher strangled Byung-sae to death, and his life slowly diminished. Witnessing all these horrors, Ki-rim was still traumatized and started to panic heavily as her life was at stake. The teacher glanced at Ki-rim in silence. As the teacher walked out of the classroom, Ki-rim asked him to save her while she was panicking. Consumed by fear, she started to think if it was all a dream and if she was stuck in class forever. Meanwhile, Hyuk was charging towards the window with immense force. But the barrier that was protecting the window repelled him, making him fall to the ground. Witnessing the barrier's force, he thought it was impossible for him to break it. Quickly, he stood up and ran across the corridor to find a way to escape his school. As he was running, the thought of his mom struck his mind again and again, making him unstable. He thought someone might be strangling her to death as of this moment. This thought alone made Hyuk lose his temper. He quickly kicked the nearby window again, but the barrier's force was so strong it didn't even budge for an inch. Hyuk delivered a powerful punch followed by a kick to break it. He landed a number of punches over it in order to break the barrier's force and break out of the window. But Hyuk used all of his stamina and fell to the ground, while a strange red message popped up over the window. Hyuk was surprised by the appearance of red text. The message implied Hyuk had to get angrier, and only then could he kill. Hyuk sighed deeply as the red message vanished. He started to wonder who created this game and what his intention was behind it. But he cleared all of his thoughts and realized one thing. Out of frustration, he quickly slammed the door beside him. He continued to walk along the corridor, and he realized that he would become a killing machine or a slave in order to survive until the end. Only then can he meet the creator of this game, at least once. And only that time he wanted to meet his faces and beat each and every one of them to death. The gym was the only place students could go once they left the classroom. There were a few people in the gym, but everyone had killed someone and had their guard up against each other as they maintained their distance. Hyuk entered the gym while Minji was sitting near the door. She took a glance at Hyuk and was surprised, but she kept her silence. While some started to enter the gym, another yellow message popped up displaying that a bonus game was on, and it was their break time to prepare for the future. Confused about this message, Hyuk analyzed that there are about 30 students in the gym with him as of this moment. But since it was written that the previous game hadn't been completed yet, he understood that more and more would enter the gym as time went on. A red-screened room over the balcony quickly caught Hyuk's attention. He entered the room as he realized that he needed to be a step up from the rest in order to win the bonus game. But it was just a locker room with a bunch of lockers and chairs. Hyuk quickly started to search if he could find anything useful. He even searched the dustbin nearby to see if he could find anything useful. Something else caught his attention. Being exhausted from searching all over the room, he saw something on the ground. Hyuk found a katana. He grabbed and unsheathed it to see if it was real and sharp enough to kill. The others saw Hyuk wield a weapon and were shocked. Within an instant, everyone scattered and ran around. Everyone started to search every corner of the gym in hopes of finding a weapon. Some of them even searched over the power supply box, and some tried to run away and hide. But Hyuk did not stop searching even after he found the katana, and eventually found another room that caught his interest. He saw another red curtain. Curious about what's behind it, he quickly slid it away and opened it. Hyuk froze after he saw that what was behind the curtain was a hidden rule. Hidden Rule 9 stated that if a person killed more than 5 people, they would awaken to an innate skill and become a king without subjects. But as he was reading it, the message started to wobble. Eventually, the message dissolved into the thin air. The message's dust was entering Hyuk's body as the message continued to disappear. Hyuk stood still, trying to figure out what it all meant while the curtains flew beside him. The gym was quiet from the outside. But inside, chaos erupted as people started to fight over the weapons they found scattered around the gym. While others even tried to take advantage of the situation when Mr. Lee and another teacher were fighting over a weapon. As people were searching for props all around the gym, another person entered the gym, confused about what was going on. He started to wonder what everyone was looking for. But most of all, he found a leg over his head. He saw Hyuk climbing the ceiling of the gym, hoping to find something useful for the bonus game, while he had already found another sword. He was surprised by Hyuk's acrobatic abilities and insane agility. He was fueled up after seeing Hyuk and realized he couldn't lose to him. He jumped explosively to the ceiling by using the balcony as a step. As the chaos continued, a golden light spawned in the middle of the stage. As the intensity of light reduced, it became clear that it was the yellow message again, indicating that the previous game and the break time had ended. Suddenly, the chaos stopped as everyone's focus shifted to reading the rules for this bonus game. Everyone had found a piece of armor and at least had one weapon with them, making them more prepared and dangerous for Hyuk in this bonus game. But Hyuk found only 3 weapons during the break time, with no armor. One of the swords was a Japanese sword for cutting. The other one was a bastard sword for both cutting and stabbing. And the other one was an S-stock for only stabbing, as all the equipment is of F tier. But Hyuk did find 5 hidden rules for the throne game. Hayuk found the hidden rule number 5, hidden rule number 6, hidden rule number 7, hidden rule number 9, and hidden rule number 15. As everyone was reading about the rules for the bonus game, he noticed that the current game was a bonus game and not a throne game. Hayuk used the hidden rules to realize that the throne game was a game where people would declare themselves as kings and collect subordinates to take the throne. He understood that rules numbers 9 and 15 were connected by the term king without subjects, and noticed it was a rule that needed another rule to understand, and was hidden in a hard-to-reach place. Since the reward would be a D-rank weapon, he knew it was better than an F-tier weapon and realized he must win that weapon. He aimed for rule number 9 and had no choice but to give up on rules number 5, 6, and 7. Hyuk resolved himself to show his worth to the creators in the game, and both the reward and the title King Without Subjects appeared to be decent. He only needed to kill 3 more people, as the conditions to become a king without subjects were to kill 5 people and awaken an innate skill, which he had already awakened. Eyes of distinction, which enable Hayek to see what intention a person has. The red and black flashes of light emitted from Hansung indicated his hostile, black, and killing red intent. In a moment where no one knew what the others were thinking, the eyes of distinction were an unrivaled skill. Suddenly, a golden light caught Hayek's attention. A big golden transparent cube spawned out of nowhere, startling the other students. Multiple cubes spawned over the entire gym, which startled everyone. The rules for the bonus game suggested that it was a golden opportunity to get an E-rank item. If a dropout, who would be indicated with an item mark, dies, and if a dropout kills someone, the mark would disappear, and they would be given karma points. But everyone was confused about what or who exactly these dropouts were. Suddenly, people appeared inside the cube. Surprised by this phenomenon, everyone swiftly averted their attention from the cubes. People couldn't understand what exactly happening now, but soon its meaning became clear. Everyone realized that the people who had appeared with an item mark above their heads were those who didn't fight until the end and were left in the classrooms. They were the only non-murderers here. Among them was Ki-rim, who was in Hayek's class, and it all meant that they had to kill the most innocent individuals to obtain items. People are divided into 2 sides. On the first side, there are people who gave up and didn't know what to do, and had decided not to act, even though they were the majority. As for the other side, it was further divided into groups, a side that decided that they had to kill to obtain an item, and a side that resolved not to let their friends die. While those who decided not to act spectated, the rest of them slowly started to surround the item boxes. Suddenly, someone swung a metal-spiked baseball bat over the box, trying to hurt the dropout. But he was curious as to why he couldn't hit. He understood the bonus game hadn't started yet. While the dropout was crying for her life, someone stood up for her. Teacher Kim came to defend the dropout, trying to defuse the students by morals. The students too realized it was Teacher Kim, but everyone was armed and dangerous. One of them yelled that everyone here was murderers and got to this place by at least killing one person. Consumed by guilt, Mr. Kim's reality sank in. He realized he even killed his students to get to this place, just for survival. Chaos erupted between the 2 factions. One of the students was trying to defend Hyejin by wielding an axe and defending both him and Hyejin. The opposite faction members just stood there, trying to find an opening as he was threatening to kill them if they came any closer. Minji glanced over the box and saw Ki-rim mouthing her name. Ki-rim was filled with hope that Minji would save her, just like she did from Min-ki. But Minji wanted her to get out with her own strength, as she hated the weak and loathed those who didn't resist. Because whenever Minji saw someone who was getting bullied or beaten in front of her, she imagined herself as if she were the one getting beaten up. She hated that pain, and she hated the weak who caused her to suffer. No matter how many times she stretched her hand to help, they didn't stand up for themselves and wished all the weaklings would die. Even though it was her honest feeling, she could never turn her back on someone who was suffering. She always hated that part of her, but there was nothing she could do to overcome this. Minji counted 6 people who surrounded Ki-rim and noticed that these people had a sword or wore chainmail. But Minji was better equipped with a shield, longsword, and body armor. But understanding she was outnumbered, she quickly scanned her surroundings to increase her winning odds, all amidst this confusion. But just then, the transparent golden walls started to fade away. Within a few moments, the only source of protection for the items vanished. Hayuk was determined to kill 3 people in order to achieve his goal. But out of all the people, he was confused as to whom he should choose. Choosing the weak people would be very efficient, but Hayuk refused. He decided to kill the first one who received an item and take it from them. Suddenly, a scream was heard throughout the gym. One of the students got impaled in the throat by a sharp spear, and blood started to splatter as he tried to push it away from his throat. He was pushed to the ground, and the man slowly pulled the spear out from his throat. When he pulled the spear out, blood started to erupt from his injury, as it was a deep one, and it cut the veins. Due to severe blood loss from the throat, he tried to breathe through the blood, resulting in severe coughs as blood started to ooze through his mouth as well. The man who stabbed stood there and watched as his victim struggled to breathe and was bleeding. But he sensed something behind him. A huge hammer, completely made out of light, just like the material that was used to hold the dropouts, spawned right behind him. The hammer swung across the face of the man with immense strength and speed, but it was targeting someone else. The hammer instantly smashed the dropout, killing him within a moment, with blood splattered everywhere. Everyone was shocked to see this scene and looked completely confused. And within a few seconds, the hammer started to fade away and disintegrate into smaller dust particles. As it faded, there was a pendant floating inside the hammer. The man noticed this pendant, and it now belonged to him, as he killed an item and earned it. He became aware and happy for a moment. He realized that he had an E-rank relic with him, which came in handy. Suddenly, there was a disturbance in the air. Hyuk quickly rushed towards him and quickly covered the distance between him and his opponent from the blind spot. Suddenly, he leaped into the air. While he was examining the pendant with his spear, Hyuk was in midair, focused on his first opponent, and prepared for his first hunt. He chose his Japanese katana, and as he got closer and closer towards his prey, he quickly unsheathed his katana for a powerful slash. He sliced through his head from the back, but Hyuk felt a clash when he sliced him, as if he was parried by something. His opponent became aware that Hyuk tried to slash his neck and behead him from behind, but Hyuk's katana broke into pieces. Hyuk couldn't even understand how and why his katana broke. The force was so intense that it didn't snap his katana into two or bend it. It was shattered into pieces due to some protection. His opponent turned around. Completely enraged by this, his eyes quickly turned red as he wanted to hurt Hyuk. Hyuk just landed on the ground with a broken katana in his hand. While Hyuk was thinking about what had just happened, his opponent charged towards him to impale him with his spear. He realized it could be some sort of protection spell that the pendant offered his opponent. He tried to impale and stab Hyuk in his gut, but Hyuk threw his broken katana as it couldn't be used anymore and quickly evaded the spear. The broken katana was high up in midair. Hyuk's quick reflex enabled him to punch his opponent's face in an efficient way. But as he punched through his face, he felt the same sensation again, as if something was protecting his opponent and parrying his punch. His katana was still in midair but started to descend. Hyuk was surprised to see his punch had no effect on his opponent. While the parry effect caused intense light energy, it made it hard for his opponent to see what was happening at that moment. He quickly charged towards Hyuk and tried stabbing him in his stomach, but Hyuk dodged awkwardly, making him inconsistent and making him lose balance. But he somehow converted and shifted the excess momentum while dodging, and this helped him to flip out of the situation, helping him to maintain some distance between him and his opponent. The broken katana finally fell down, with its blade part touching the ground first. But while he was trying to flip, his hand slipped, causing an injury in his hand. This distracted Hyuk as he was in the middle of an evasion. His opponent rushed in with immense speed by carrying his spearhead. But Hyuk launched himself into the air with the momentum he gained after pushing himself against the spearhead itself. The excess force Hyuk used to flip over the spear changed its direction downwards as Hyuk safely spaced himself. Hyuk landed on his feet and stood face to face with his opponent. Suddenly, he felt something, some sensation tingling over his body. It was a feeling that was way different from the boring fights he had against Minho and Han Sung, and a feeling that he hadn't felt for a long time. Hyuk's focus was on that glowing pendant, wondering how long it would last. He instantly moved out of the spearhead and tried to land another punch on his opponent. Hyuk was focused and fierce with his intentions and his punch. The punch landed on his opponent's face, but it didn't damage him at all as something parried his punch again, an invisible force. But the pendant stopped glowing after he landed that punch, and Hyuk instantly understood what was going on. He checkmated his opponent as he read the situation and quickly sidestepped. He quickly took advantage of his blind spot and unsheathed his estoc sword. Before even his opponent could realize what was going on, he noticed something was odd. He realized he had been stabbed in the neck from behind as blood started to ooze out of his wound. Hyuk held his estoc firmly as his opponent struggled to breathe. He quickly pulled his sword from his neck, which made him spill more blood than usual, and he even started to bleed from his mouth. His opponent slowly started to lose consciousness and felt his life fade away. He finally fell on the ground and passed away due to heavy blood loss. Just like the previous victims, he started to fade away and disintegrate into ash. While his body faded away, he noticed the pendant was still intact. Hyuk took the pendant. As he killed the first one, he realized he still had 2 more to go. He also obtained the pendant, a necklace of protection, and E-rank equipment that could intercept an attack within a certain range with only 3 interceptions at a time, and it recharged every 20 minutes. The total student population was 1,938 people throughout the college. But including teachers, the number exceeded 2,000, and out of them, only 812 had survived past the Ring of Rebirth. While only 150 of them participated in the bonus game, the dropouts were running throughout the gym for their lives. 2 of them surrounded and trapped a dropout while he was running for his life. Suddenly, one of them used a spear to tackle one of the dropouts, making him trip across the floor. He fell chin first on the floor. One of the participants held his head by the hair and pulled him back. He pulled up his knife and came closer to finish him off while he was scared for his life. The blade touched his neck. The same scenario happened throughout the gym. Many chased after individual targets, and the lucky ones who killed them would receive compensation. One of them drew his sword and stood in front of Kirim to finish her off while she was trembling out of fear. But within an instant, Kirim disappeared from his sight. Minji stepped into action and quickly leaped out of action with Kirim over her shoulders, escaping the situation with ease as they all stood confused. Minji grabbed Kirim and ran off towards the other end of the gym, where another fight was going on. She was heading towards Chu Young-jin, who was trying to protect his girlfriend with an axe while she hid behind him. While they were fighting with Young-jin, someone yelled his name, catching everyone off guard and surprised. It was Minji, carrying Kirim over her back. She jumped in to save him. She instantly kicked him out of the scene, and he fell onto the ground, dropping his sword. Minji landed on the floor as Young-jin was just shocked and confused. The moment she slammed her fist into the throat of a student who was approaching Lee Haijin, his girlfriend, an alliance was formed. But Minji had other plans apart from saving Young-jin and Haejin. She called Baek Sae-rom, who was also a friend of Haejin. Like that, she continued to call out specific people's names. But there were some who looked away because of their fear. However, there were also some who slowly entered the fray. As she started to aggressively form an alliance, the hunters felt overwhelmed facing Jong Min-ji's group. Even though this was a bonus game and even though an E-rank item was enticing, there were many individuals who didn't want to risk their lives for it. But some were still willing to kill even though they didn't have to put their lives on the line. While the chaos continued, some of them were struck with arrows from above and were caught unexpectedly, as none of them could block the arrows as if they were released by someone who was very skilled in archery. The third-year student representative, Kim Pil-jung, along with his friend Sun Duk-pil, was willing to kill even though they didn't have to put their lives on the line by differentiating between people he knew and didn't know with a sword. On the other hand, one of the dropouts tried exiting the gym by running to the door. But as he was running, he noticed something behind. Fear instilled in him as if he were at the door of hell. He was beheaded within an instant by a player who ran around swiftly, cutting dropouts' necks. It was none other than the queen bee of third years, Lee Hyuna. She was cruel in her own ways, as she saved people with pretty faces and mercilessly killed those she deemed ugly. And she gave swords to those she saved and ordered them to kill others. On the other hand, there was a man standing over the dead body of a teacher, wielding an iron mace. 5 teachers died, and among them, 3 weren't dropouts, but those who hunted the dropouts. It was the gym teacher, Hwang Mangi, who didn't hesitate for a moment to kill his competitors. But there was also another human in the room, who instilled fear in his enemies, who were intimidated by his presence. Choi Jun-sung challenged his opponents if they wanted to move, as they were just trying to find an opening. One of them fell to the ground, and he walked up to them with a long sword in his hand. As Jun-sung was walking towards him, the other guy sneaked behind him. He took out his knife and was ready to stab Jun-sung from the back, as he was desperate for survival and to win the game. He found an opening. Within an instant, he rushed towards Jun-sung with immense rage and speed. He sensed something in that moment. The moment he tried to stab him, he entered a particular range. Jun-sung smiled as he already sensed his presence and was ready to counter it. With immense strength, Jun-sung swung his sword from below with a creepy grin, slicing him in 2 halves as he dropped his weapon. But even in this whole simple game, there were a few options, and players who shown each had their own style and techniques instead of a typical conventional fight. A sword clashed with a saber, creating sparks from this interaction between the tools. Since Hyuk's rule was more eye-catching, he was trying to kill the one who obtained an item. But instantly, Hyuk noticed something was wrong with the clash. His opponent's saber started to slice his sword, indicating the difference in sharpness between these two tools. Hyuk quickly stepped back and spaced himself in a safe position. Realizing that his opponent's saber was an E-rank weapon, which is far superior to his F-rank bastard sword, Hyuk understood that if his sword received a direct hit, it would mostly break into two. His opponent quickly swung across his gut to injure him, but Hyuk evades it with ease. He tried to assert dominance over Hyuk by continuously going offensive against him, but he was able to dodge it all and parry the strikes that he couldn't parry. Hyuk waited for the right time to counter his swing, and in that moment when his opponent tried to charge his swing, Hyuk quickly stabbed him over his chest. As it was a fatal injury, he instantly started to fade away into ashes. Just like he received his pendant, he received the E-rank saber, which was far superior. But Hyuk was confused. He noticed that there was something very different from his other swords. Hyuk's attention was averted to someone who was nearby. He saw a guy trying to fix his shoes. Suddenly, something caught his attention, and he was shocked. Hyuk rushed in quickly as he tried to test his new saber sword. He charged up his swing and was trying to slice him in half, but the shoes, which he just wore, provided a jump boost, which enabled him to exert more force for the jump. When Hyuk almost sliced him in half, he quickly jumped over his strike. Hyuk noticed his opponent was mid-air for an extended period of time. This caught him off guard as he wasn't prepared for that evasion and that ability. He lost his momentum and fell to the ground. He landed perfectly, and he was able to jump again like a spring. He used his boots to escape from Hyuk as he jumped around the gym and evaded everyone. Confused about the situation, Hyuk wondered if it was the effect of the shoes and if it would be challenging to kill him. Hyuk stood among the crowd, but within an instant he disappeared, making use of the crowd as his cover to cut his opponent's line of sight. Mid-air, he searched everywhere for a while and turned back to see where he was. He searched through the crowd but couldn't find Hyuk. He even looked over the other side to see if he could see Hyuk so that he could be aware of his predator. Since he couldn't see Hyuk anywhere, he thought he had stopped pursuing him and changed his target. Even though he felt a moment of relief knowing Hyuk isn't around anymore, he also realized it wasn't the right time to relax or feel relieved. But he noticed Hyuk in the middle of the public, covering himself, and he was rushing towards the landing spot of his opponent. He realized there was nothing he could do, while Hyuk trapped him mid-air, as it's impossible to dodge or evade mid-air. As he fell, he panicked that he might be killed, and he too knew that dodging mid-air is not possible at all. Hyuk's estoc pierced him and splattered his blood all over. Within that instant, his opponent died as Hyuk still stood firm on the ground. Everyone was filled with fear and shocked by the scene, especially the spectating students who thought they were a safe distance away but were terrified by Hyuk's determination to kill his target. Exhausted by chasing him, Hyuk gasped for breath to balance his breathing level. He sat on a chair, which was near him, to breathe for a moment and gain stamina. But as he was resting, he noticed something. People started to become cautious of Hyuk as he was actively killing people in order to achieve his goals. Although Piljung and Mangji had killed more people than Hyuk, he faced the most hostility. No one even doubted that Choi Jun-sung, the best fighter in the whole school, would kill people. But Hyuk popped off and did things that even the best fighter Choi Jun-sung wasn't doing around. This really caused trouble, and a lot of hate fell onto Choi Hyuk. But even when everyone was hostile and malicious toward him, he found a person with white hair through innate skill. In order to befriend Hyuk, he even waved at him. Hyuk was surprised to see him. He quickly ignored him, as he was feeling weird that he had no intention of hostility, even though he had killed people. As the round was about to conclude, the only dropouts who survived were the 4 Minji was protecting, as others either died or killed someone with the help of their friends and got rid of the item mark. Since it was tough to face the 15 people in Minji's group, the quest for the hunt ended right there. But within moments, the announcement for the next game appeared, which confused people and made them nervous about what was next. A red message popped up saying the throne game has begun. A golden light spawned in the middle of the stage. The rules for the throne game were displayed in yellow text, stating all the specifications for the contest as well. But based on the rules, it was possible for a lot of people to gain the support of 5 people in a single school. To think of it, a typical group of friends was made up of 3 to 5 people, and most of the time, it would be based on that one central person. And also, there were more people who attempted to gain 5 people's support than they thought. The reward suggested it was 10 karma points, and usually, if someone killed a person, a total sum of 7 karma points would be distributed to each stat, as it was better than killing someone mercilessly. But since the karma points could be allocated however we want, it might even be better than killing 4 or 5 people. Sun Dukpil received a golden message which popped right in front of him. The message asked if he wanted to support Piljung to make him a king for this round. He glanced over Piljung about this. Piljung nodded back, implying there's a sinister plan ahead, formulated by Piljung himself. Even Minji thought of 5 people, but she didn't think about those who trusted and followed her. She also didn't think about those who were easy to deal with, like Yoon Ki-rim. A yellow message popped up in front of people, asking if they wanted to support Minji. She thought of leaders she was familiar with and with whom she was friends, and spoke in front of everyone, asking if there would be endless thrones and suggesting unity among everyone for strength. People heard her speech, thinking about whether they want to offer their support to her. She was basically saying that the number of thrones was limited, and that the ones who declared themselves as kings had to fight each other in a battle royale. Since she asked right after the message appeared, people asked for Minji's assurance. But Minji was 50% sure rationally, but 100% sure emotionally. People realized the determination and confidence level of Minji. With trust, they all affirmed with Minji and chose to support her, as it would be beneficial to make her a king. A golden orb appeared out of nowhere in the gym. Minji's body started to glow as the golden energy started to spiral around her body. Golden shining lights appeared throughout the gym, indicating all the king's locations. Among the 797 survivors of the bonus game, 42 had become kings. The other set of rules was shown for the throne game, with the last one being hidden. It all fell in the right place for Hayek, as he had already killed 3 people. This was a perfect time to execute his plan for hidden rule number 9 and hidden rule number 15, and he realized he could have an advantage. Before the throne game could begin, there was a 5-minute time break to choose their kings. Otherwise, all those who hadn't chosen a king would cease to exist. Hyuk stood against the wall, resting up for a while and trying to conserve his energy for the game. Meanwhile, Young Jin was discussing with Minji about recruiting Hyuk to their team. Considering all the options and possibilities, Minji confronted Hyuk and asked him to join her team. Hyuk thought of all the good deeds and how Minji was with him the whole time for a moment. But since he had found the hidden rules, he had to stick to his plans in order to win the throne game. Hyuk told Minji that he had some circumstances that wouldn't allow him to join her faction. But after witnessing his immense power and agility, Minji didn't want to become enemies with him, at the very least. Out of curiosity, Minji asked which faction he was going to join, but Hyuk rubbed it off by telling her not to worry, as he wouldn't be her enemy as long as the situation allowed. Minji stayed silent, trying to process the situation. She immediately gave her hand for a handshake. Hyuk saw goodwill through the handshake. He sensed no hostility or malice in Minji's eyes, as she just wanted him on her team for an easier victory. Hyuk realized Minji didn't have any bad intentions. Hyuk shook hands with Minji, implying a peaceful relationship between the two. As Hyuk was standing, a black silhouette appeared in front of him, catching his attention. Choi Jun-sung introduced himself to Hyuk with a simple hi gesture. But Hyuk noticed something was off about Jun-sung. Hyuk quickly pushed him off by keeping a safer distance as Jun-sung thought Hyuk was being cranky with him. After witnessing Hyuk in action, Jun-sung realized Hyuk fights pretty well and wanted to fight together, as he thought it was mandatory to choose someone anyway. Hyuk refused it as he sensed something through his eyes. Jun-sung's eyes were red, which, by his innate ability, eyes of distinction, implies that Jun-sung has harmful and killing intentions. But Jun-sung smiled it off, as if he knew what was going on. He thought Hyuk was joining Minji's faction and was with her. He turned away and continued to walk away from Hyuk as he understood what was going on. But even in that moment, Hyuk noticed a red aura emitting from Jun-sung, but there was also goodwill equally. Confused about this, he thought about how it would be possible to have both goodwill and killing intent, and if it would mean he would destroy him, as he couldn't get him. Jun-sung continued to walk away as Hyuk continued to observe him, and knew he was a funny guy as he thought he could threaten him. Almost 5 minutes had passed. While everyone stood around the 42 kings, Choi Hyuk stood by himself and rejected everyone's offer when they tried to get him on their faction. Some even thought he was backed by someone powerful to act independently. When the timer hit 0, a golden light spawned and illuminated the room. It was the throne game's hidden rule number 9, which Hyuk found in a curtained room before the bonus game. Just like all those 42 kings, even the rule started to become dust and spiral around his body, as if he were absorbing it by himself. Although Choi Hyuk didn't know this, Unlike the other rules, which had multiple copies, there was only a single copy of the king without subjects rule, and everyone was just too stunned to speak. Even though Hyuk's ascension to king without subjects was an unexpected thing, everyone realized that the 30 extra karma points would make such a difference from the beginning that it would be harder and progressively get worse to catch up with Hyuk. The throne game's other set of rules was revealed, suggesting that there are only 5 thrones and they cannot leave unless only 5 kings remain. It also stated that the only way to end the qualification of a king is to kill them. The message indicated that the only way to end the qualification of a king is to kill them without hesitation. But most importantly, if a follower's king is killed, the follower would join the enemy king's group, as this would be an interesting rule because this way, it would expand their army exponentially. Now, after reading all these rules, those who had hastily become kings regretted it. It was as if they had volunteered to jump into a game of death with no options left. But just like we have 2 sides of a coin, there were other kings who had a burning desire to take one of the 5 seats. At the same time, killing intent poured onto Choi Hyuk, who was the strongest by himself but had no strength in numbers, as it would become beneficial and give him an extra hand if he had some. Choi Hyuk could see the killing intent with his eyes of distinction, as most of their eyes turned red. But Hyuk started to laugh menacingly. He unsheathed his sword, and as he pointed out, his saber sword started to shape itself into a jagged blade, resembling a fang. He pointed the fang saber towards Pil Jung, the master archer, then pointed it towards Jun Sung, the best martial artist throughout the school, then pointed towards the iron mace-wielding tank, Manji. And he continued to point his fang saber towards all kings, and with a creepy and eerie smile, Hyuk told them he was going to kill them all, while they were scared by his threat as it sent shivers down their spines. But he didn't mention or threaten Minji anywhere. Thus, she kept her silence and observed the situation. Since he received 40 free karma points, Hyuk distributed the points in stamina and recovery with 5 points each in power and speed, and 10 points for recovery with retribution as 8. But Hyuk himself didn't know how many he was going to kill throughout the entire journey. The plastin stats raised with items would be indicated such that if we were to take away the increase stat, it would decrease to that value subtracted by the number specified before, plus. Hyuk earned 3 items from the bonus game. An E-rank necklace of protection, which can intercept an opponent's attack within a certain range. E-rank tireless boots, which allow you to run faster and jump higher, and an E-rank fang saber with a durability of 300. Each of the kings had their own emblems, with Jong Min-ji as the Crazy Night King, Choi Jun-sung as the Slaughter King, Kim Pil-jong as the Hunter King, and Choi Hyuk as the King without subjects. There are 43 kings now, including the King without subjects, Choi Hyuk, and there were only 5 thrones. Each and every group started to distance itself from the others. Hyuk leaped over everyone within an instant, while everyone was trying to figure out his intentions. Pil-jong became alerted by Hyuk's actions, leaped towards Pil-jong, while Pil-jong instructed his shields to come forth and spearmen behind them, as it was effective enough to defend and counter as well, and he instructed the rest to get behind them and cover against the wall. Frustrated about the fact that he was targeted as soon as the round started, Pil-jong drew his bow and aimed towards Hyuk. Hyuk leaped in towards him, making it a face-off between the 2 kings themselves. However, instead of attacking Pil-jong, he landed beside him and ran ahead. Seeing this, Pil-jong was surprised. He looked back at Hyuk and realized that he was not trying to attack Pil-jong in the first place. His real target was the weakest of the 6 kings he pointed to, whose symbol happened to be a dole. Hyuk did not know his name, but only that he was friendly with Lee Minki, Hyun-sung, and the others who used to bully Hyuk. The targeted king raised his blade in fear. However, it was all for naught because Hyuk jumped over him while making a clean slice through his forehead. The targeted king was shocked in place, unable to move. It was only after a moment that he realized his bleeding forehead was a sign of his death. The system prompted him that he was the first to kill a king and was thus given an additional 3 free karma points, while his retribution points also increased by 3. As he landed on the ground after his first kill, the system also informed him that he got 2 points for killing a king in general. As the prompt disappeared, he realized he had taken 1 down and only 5 more targets were left. Originally, the subjects who had lost their king should normally get affiliated with the enemy king. However, Hyuk happened to be the king without subjects. The subjects who lost their kings and their affiliations were approached by other kings. These subjects ended up joining the first king who made contact with them. And so, whenever Hyuk killed a king, The place overflew with new subjects. This led to a chaotic state with all the kings hurrying to recruit more subjects. After all, when such a chance appeared in a game where you could die without enough power, the real competition between kings was bound to begin. The psychological battles quickly switched to a full-blown war. Heads were simply being slashed left and right in the devious brawl. Meanwhile, Hyuk leisurely slashed another guy's wrist off. With his wrist chopped off, he became a sitting duck for Hyuk to stab in the neck. Seeing the death of their comrade, others under the same king rushed towards Hyuk. However, he swiftly dodged an attack while simultaneously blocking an incoming swing of a blade. With a single slice of his blade, he killed both his attackers, beheading one brutally. Looking off into the distance, he saw the blood splattering everywhere as things had turned into a battle royale. The king whom Hyuk had been targeting yelled at him to stop. In a frightful tone, he screamed out a plea for the same. However, he had forgotten that his subjects could not disobey his orders, and by mistake, he had forced them to freeze in their tracks. This made it a very easy task for Hyuk to slip past their defenses as their king tried to run away. But to the king's horror, an enemy king's soldier attacked him from the front when he was not looking. A single stab was all it took for the king to stop in his tracks. The guy had started to grin, thinking he had come up victorious. However, Minji, who had been watching all this, swiftly slashed her blade from behind him. As blood spurted from his wound, Minji looked ahead with resolute eyes. Minji looked at her shivering friend and told her to kill the person Minji had just wounded. However, her friend was hesitating. Minji told her to shut up and just kill, calling her a piece of trash. With tears in her eyes, she resolved herself. Pushing the blade into the wounded guy's neck, she finally killed him. After a kill, the title of item that was floating above her head gradually disappeared. Minji was satisfied with this, but wished she could have done the same to Lee Hyejin as well. However, she cautiously decided to wait for now. Even the number of kings that survived, there was now more space than before, which made it easier to control their movements. Due to the brawl started because of Choi Hyuk, everyone's stamina was also at rock bottom. After using powers surpassing their stamina, the people were not able to move as they wanted because it was something similar to muscle pain. If Yoon Karim died in this situation, she was nothing more than an idiot. However, just then, something caught the corner of Minji's eyes. She looked back and horrifyingly noticed that Piljung's upper body had been cut off from his waist. Piljung had a shocked look on his face as if he did not understand what had just happened. And not just Piljung, but everyone was looking at his in shock. Piljung, the school president, had finally died, and it was Choi Hyuk who killed him. Minji was absolutely speechless, as she could not understand how Hyuk could have done that alone. At the same time, Choi Jun-sung looked ahead and regretted not surrounding and attacking another group earlier. As he looked at Hyuk, he fearfully asked if Hyuk really killed Piljung alone by himself. Hyuk gave him murderous eyes as he looked back. Through the crowd of Choi Jun-sung's subjects, he looked at him with bloodlust. With a deathly smile, he suddenly leaped forward with an attempt to slice Jun-sung's head off. However, Jun-sung was able to react in time and block the strike at the last moment. This did not prevent his hands from trembling as they received the impact. He realized that this was just Hyuk's pure strength, without any skill. Jun-sung had searched all over the gym and had found a skill he could use to hit with incredible speed regardless of what weapon it was. But Hyuk's simple knife was seemingly already on par with Jun-sung's skill. With another slash, Hyuk's sword clashed against Jun-sung's. Unable to block it fully, Jun-sung used his skill but was still pushed back as he rapidly lost stamina. If he used the skill even one more time, he would not even have enough energy left to run off. Realizing this, he ordered his subjects to all block Hyuk's path. While Hyuk tried to cut through Jun-sung's subjects, Jun-sung was running away with all his might. After getting rid of a lot of Jun-sung's followers, Hyuk decided to pause for a while as he took a sigh. He thought to himself how he had been so close to killing another king. It had been great when he killed Piljung when he was caught off guard. Piljung could not block his attack because he ignored the defense item on Hyuk. It would have been best if he would have been able to take Jun-sung along with him too. However, he had not really been fighting with the intent to kill. He had been training and experimenting how far his body could move and how he could stretch his arms and legs. In response to Choi Hyuk's ability and talent, the S-Talk blade evolved into a predator's sword, which was an E rank. Now, there were only 17 kings left alive, and out of his 6 specific targets, only 2 remained. Hyuk looked at his next target with a smile and said that they should continue. He took a deep breath and readied himself. With a swift push off the ground, he sprung himself forward. Seeing him still in the mood to fight, the others were shocked and wondered just how much stamina he had. The truth was that Hyuk's stamina was now sitting at a staggering 83 points. Hyuk's next target, Hwan Mangji, swung his mace as it crashed into the floor. However, Hyuk swiftly dodged the strike. He circled behind Hwang and made a slash that tore through Hwang's shirt. Both of them took a step back to steady themselves. However, Hyuk was smiling while Hwang shuddered in fear. Hwang immediately ordered his subjects to block Hyuk. Despite having frowns on their faces, they had practically no choice but to follow his orders. Hyuk looked at the incoming subjects with an axe. But without even blinking or batting an eyelid, Hyuk sliced the person's head in two. With a flurry of attacks, he swiftly did away with the rest of the enemies around him. While Hyuk was dealing with the subjects, their king Hwang was trying to kill others and get more and more points. He had decided that he had to end his game quickly if he wanted to live. With a swing of his mace, he struck 3 people at once and sent them flying. Clutching his weapon, he reminded himself that he had to be one of the last 5 kings. The moment Choi Hyuk had charged at Hwang Mangji, the other king's fates had been sealed. The battle dragged on as more blood was shed. Suddenly, in a part of the battlefield, a flurry of purplish strike could be seen. These were attacks of the assassin king, Lee Hyuna, who was fast and stealthy. However, her stamina was still a problem. When she grew tired, Jun-sung took his chance and swung his axe at her. It hurt her shoulder and dug into her flesh. As she fell down defenseless, Jun-sung made a charge. He stabbed his blade forward while giving out a fake apology to her. With a swift motion, he pulled his sword out as blood gushed out from her wound. She lay dead at his feet while Jun-sung was thinking that the axe was too good to throw away. However, even he knew that he would not be able to kill Hyuk with this, and he most definitely had to get a better item. Thinking so, he glanced towards Lee Hyejin, who was being protected by Chu Yongjin at the moment. These two had grown up together and had fallen in love with each other long back. For Chu Yongjin, Lee Hyejin was like his other half. Looking down at her frightened face, he asked her if she was okay. She tried to smile and replied in affirmative. But just as he hugged her, an axe came flying from behind her. Before Yongjin could even realize what had happened, he felt blood drenching his hand. Looking down, he realized that an axe was lodged into Hyejin's head, who was now dead due to the fatal blow. The system brought down the yellow hammer on her just like it had for every person labeled with an item title. Right in front of Yongjin's eyes, her body was crushed as her blood splattered everywhere. All that was left behind was a sword with a dark red design. Jun-sung made a dive for his last item and gleefully picked the sword up. However, at that very moment, Yongjin's eyes became bloodily red as he awakened the unique skill, Raging Warrior. With unbridled fury, Yongjin charged at the relaxed Jun-sung with axe in hand. Jun-sung underestimated him and simply kept his new sword raised to attack leisurely. Minji saw the reckless assault and tried to stop Yongjin. However, Yongjin was deafened by rage as he pulled his axe back for a heavy blow. But Jun-sung's slash did not penetrate deep enough as it was somehow slowed down by a mysterious golden shield at the last moment. Yongjin's axe met its mark as it left a splitting blow in the middle of Jun-sung's head. At the same time, Hyuk was successful in stabbing Hwang Mangji's neck. In a split moment, the lives of 2 kings had simultaneously come to an end. As they fell to the floor with blood dripping from their wounds, they both perished and disappeared. After all was done, Yongjin fell to the ground with teary eyes and grieved the death of his love while clutching the sword she left behind. Hyuk gave him a glance with sympathy. He looked around and wondered if this was the end. It had taken around 30 whole minutes to eliminate 26 out of the 43 kings. However, it barely took 5 minutes to eliminate 13 out of the remaining 17. Thus, only 4 kings remained. The Crazy Night King, Young Minji. The Heckler King, Kim Hunbaek. The Slave King, Song Seaman. The King Without Subjects, Choi Hyuk. The long, brutal fight had finally ended, and out of the 797 survivors, only 483 remained. The system notified that it was now time for the break, and the king and the subjects could freely move but could not leave the school until nightfall. At the canteen, a whiteboard had a list of the available dishes. Over there, the different kings and their subjects gathered to have their food. Hyunbaek worriedly questioned Minji why they were serving their meals together. He suggested an alternative of fairly dividing the goods and letting each group decide how to distribute it. After making the deal, he proceeded to call on everyone to have as much as they wanted since they were sharing the food between each other. While distributing it, Hyunbaek though to himself about how he had gained a political edge over Minji and decided she was just an idiot who did not know how to use power. An evil smile filled his face as trouble loomed over Minji and the others. It was not going to be an easy journey ahead for Hayek.